Okay, just so everyone knows, this meeting is being recorded. Okay, and it is 10 o'clock, and Jamal has just joined us. Okay, hello, Jamal.
Good morning, everyone. How are you?
Morning, Jamal. Morning. Morning.
Yes, I will send it to you, okay?
Morning,
Okay,
Jamal.
and few other people joining us.
I am.
Good morning. Can you hear me? This is Will.
Hi, Will.
Doing well.
Okay, good. Because the message said I was in the waiting room and can't speak. I don't know what that meant.
Yeah, we just let everybody else in. You know me, I talk too much. Okay, and with everybody joining us, I believe we can begin the meeting. We will begin the special meeting of the City of Reading Planning Commission for this Saturday, February 12th, 2022, and it is 10:01 a.m. I want to acknowledge that all 5 Planning Commission members have joined the meeting. Nelson, Lee, Bob, and myself, Wayne, are here in person at Doubletree, and Will has joined us via the phone line. First item on the agenda is to do the preliminary annexation and land development plan review for Supernatural Produce at the corner of 4th and Elm. And I will turn it over to Jerome to continue with the meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The first application you have before you is a preliminary annexation and land development plan. It's for the Supernatural Produce 3, which is located at 225 through 243 North 4th Street. We have had the opportunity to have a site meeting, and we also have received revised plans and other documents that were necessary for the review, which include truck turning templates, stormwater management plans, Berks County Conservation District applications, and now we have the complete environmental assessment reports that have been finished. I'm going to summarize the comments that are in our review letter that was issued on February 11th. And going down to comment 3 of the review letter, we've had previously been provided with architectural renderings, elevations, and floor plans. We understand that we have a new architect on board, and we just want to make sure we're going to be dealing with the current plans, and that those current plans be also submitted to the Building and Trades Department, Public Works Department, and others who may need the plan at this level. These plans are not going to be submitted for an official review and permitting process. They're just more so for making sure that these departments have it as part of their records so they can understand the project in their world. Going over to comments 4 and 5, these deal with, more specifically with comment 5, is site accessibility and traffic issues. Jim Dimmerling, who is the City of Reading consultant for this project as well, for my office. We acknowledge that the largest vehicles are going to be a WB-40. There may be some maneuvering that we need to verify. Those are shown on the truck turning movement plans that have been by traffic planning. There you go. Everyone okay? Okay. So with those truck turning movement counts, we have recommended that the truck deliveries be made on non-peak hours. And peak hours are basically defined as 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. and 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. If we have designated hours and we know when they are going to be, I think that will help out. If you cannot guarantee those hours, then at least avoid those peak generation hours. Also, it's been to our understanding that there, from traffic planning and design, that there will be at least one or possibly two persons that will need to direct traffic for the truck to make the turning movements from Elm backing into Madison and into the facility. We would like to work that out in the final plan sequence to include some notes on the plan, as well as what we can do from a legal perspective to make sure that the city is not liable for any problems associated with the delivery. So that's something I think we want to work on in the final plan. The rest of the traffic comments we feel that can be resolved as part of the final plan. So we had also asked that Public Works, as well as the Fire and Rescue Department, review the plan. Moving on to the rest of the comments. The off-street parking areas, you had provided us some documentation with regard to where I think we're down just to 5 vehicles that need to have off-site parking facilities, and I believe you had submitted some documentation to support that. So that's a final plan item as well. We understand that your sewer planning module is in play or in the pipeline for City of Reading and DEP reviews. So I don't expect that that's going to take too much longer. With regards to stormwater management, we think that the plan is been prepared to meet most of the requirements that we have provided. We acknowledge that the applicant is going to have to comply with the City of Reading MS4 program, and that's a stormwater management agreement between you and the city. And the Berks County Conservation District will need to review and permit the stormwater management issues that we have in play. Those are also final plan requirements that can be addressed. Lastly, that I wanted to touch upon was the curbs and sidewalks, based upon our site meeting that we had, and I think Public Works will concur that the curbs and sidewalks will need to be either replaced in certain areas or at least improved. We're going to let Public Works provide you with specific directions on where those segments are, and if we can address those as part of the final plan, we can coordinate that. That would be nice. But yeah, the last comment is the municipal improvements agreement will be required, and that's a final plan item as well. Mr. Chairman, it looks like they've provided us with a lot of information, and I think we should open it up for comments. We will be, my office will be making a recommendation of preliminary plan approval. Okay.
Before I begin, I do want to thank everyone that was at the site meeting. We really appreciate your cooperation. Does any planning commission member have a comment or questions?
Yes, this is Lee Olson. Wayne, it's been so long since this project has been on the table, and I know there's been issues with it over time in terms of moving forward. Refresh my memory, what again is the ultimate use of this building? There used to be an old school building on the corner. That's been torn down, I understand. And what is the ultimate purpose of this building?
Where the school building was, I understand that that's going to be a parking deck.
Yeah.
Okay. And then the old municipal garage.
Yeah.
will become a restaurant, and a number of other things. So if Leo, I see Leo's with us, both Leos are with us, if they could give us a little bit of an overview of what you have planned for that building.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Delvin. I'm here with Mr. Sanchez. Pretty much the usage of the building will be on the first floor is going to be a typical supermarket with a restaurant inside. And then on the second floor, we're going to have a tortilla dough factory, which we're going to produce the pastelillo disc to be sold at a wholesale to other businesses. So pretty much a conventional supermarket, which is going to be our main focus at the beginning, and then the factory on the second floor following with that.
Very good. Thank you. I want to add one other thing. There is another component as part of the annexation plan. There are residential dwellings that are also going to be incorporated in the project. There is a total of 9 apartment units, 3 in each of the residential buildings. That was in our previous review. I removed it from a comment. Since, if you go back to the previous review, it specifies exactly the street address number, the Berks County tax parcel ID number, and the number of units. So it's for each building, there's 3 apartments.
That's taken off the table for this?
That's part of it.
That's part of it.
Mr. Chairman, if I may say something in there. I think Mr. Lee Olson have raised a very good question, so I'd like to follow up with Delman about a few questions. Delman, is this property going to hire new employees?
Yes, we're on schedule to hire to begin about 120 employees for both businesses. And the good thing about our location is that we're going to be able to hire local employees that are going to be able to walk to our location. They don't have to drive or they don't have to take a bus, because we're going to be right in the middle of the city, which I think is very convenient for the community around us.
Okay, and talk to us about the wholesaling. So am I correct in saying that you'll be producing food or food products and actually distributing it not only to Berks County, but outside of Berks County?
That is correct. Well, what the product that we're gonna produce is a dough that once you make it, you put it in the freezer to freeze, and then we'll sell it to different counties, not just Berks County. We have have words with several companies such as ShopRite that we have offered our product, and they say once we're up and running and we are FDA approved, they'll look into it and buy big quantities from us. And they're pretty big. ShopRite supermarkets are pretty big, from all the way from Connecticut to Massachusetts. So
Okay.
It's a big project, yeah, when it comes to that part of the business.
Thank you.
Projection.
And another question to Mr. Leopold. Mr. Leopold, I believe that you have a similar grocery store or a supermarket in Lancaster. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Excuse me, I'm in my office and they decided to do the fire alarm test in there, so my apologies. But my question to you is, would it be possible for the final plan, if the board entertains your land development, to provide us with pictures of that place so that we can see the final product that you actually deliver to the community?
Sure. Dice que pueden traer fotos de algún otro negocio que no vean lo que usted hace.
I can't hear you.
Claro que sí.
Sí,
O
sí.
sea, y no solamente en Lancaster, también en Scanton, que ya tenemos uno funcionando por más de 5 años, o sea, en todos los negocios que podemos
Yeah,
hacer.
we have not just a business in Lancaster, we also have a business in Scranton, PA. He can provide pictures and explain how those businesses are doing and how we have impact that area where we have been in. So,
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, I don't have any more questions. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Again, this is Lee Olson. Thanks, Jamal. Looking at the paperwork from Hawk Valley, this presentation this morning is a sketch plan review, and the fact that it's more, oh, I'm sorry, beg your pardon, I have the wrong superintendent. Wrong one. Excuse me, my apologies. There we are. It's a preliminary annexation and land development plan. Based on all of the information that we have received so far, I am in agreement to continue to look at this, and I accept Hawk Valley's recommendation, but I would really like to have a more in-depth and detailed presentation at final, because with the added element now of residential, you truly have a mixed-use occupancy, and the fact that you have changed design professionals, I really would like to see something from your architect that shows us what this will look like internally in terms of space planning, and also how you're going to handle the exterior. Because when I look at the photographs of the building, it is not in the greatest of shape, and there are no windows at all on the north elevation. So I certainly support the idea of mixed use and the idea for the revitalization of the property, but I can't continue on giving approval until I see something that is hard drawn and shows the character of how the building's going to be reused, and aesthetically what it's going to look like on the outside, and especially the parking deck. Is it 1 level, 2 level? I don't know. I can't tell from the drawing. And what does its exterior look like? So these are charges that you would make to your architectural design team to provide you with the necessary documents. So I support Jerome's total team approach, and I think it's a good start and a good plan. But you need to have some more aesthetic work done to convince me personally that it's a good fit, and it's going to look and fit the neighborhood context. Thank you.
Do you have anything, Bob?
Just to further these thoughts about needing to understand the use of the building, those architectural plans need to show how resident units are going to be entered and exited,
yeah,
and how they're going to be protected from the mercantile portion of the project, because there needs to be fire safety between those two occupancies. So, number one importance for everybody, not just the mercantile side, but also the residential side.
We'll also make sure that all the planning commission members, as well as everyone on your team as well, just as a refresher, has the zoning hearing board decision for this project, which was accounting for the residential use. If we deviate from what was permitted or authorized by the zoning hearing board, we would then have to send them back to the zoning hearing board. So we don't want to do that, but I mean, if you're still set with the way your project is designed, then we should have no problems. But we'll make sure we get everyone the zoning hearing board decision.
Good. Thank you.
Will, do you have any questions or comments?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My only concern actually is not about the plan so far. I agree with everything my colleagues have been saying. Is I see from the photographs from the site visit, the fencing on the sidewalk. I don't know what the protocol is. I'm not sure anybody from Public Works is there today, but if there isn't, I would hope that there's some sign or something for the public that the sidewalk is closed, or some, I don't know what provisions should be in place for the safety for the walkability there. That's the only, that could be followed. It has nothing to do with a condition on the plan. It's just just wanted to make that, express that concern.
Just so you know, Will, I drove past there this morning, and the temporary fencing that is up is marked, no crossing, and it's also marked as beware a dangerous construction site or something. So,
Oh, good.
the Monarch construction team, did put those signs up on the fencing, as warnings to people, so.
Oh, thank you. We couldn't see that from the photos. I appreciate that.
And I also want to mention that the final design for the driveway entrance and the sidewalks and everything will not be finalized until we get the PennDOT HOP, which I do understand is in the works, or it's being investigated for the 4th Street entrance.
That is correct. It is in the works.
Very good. Thank you, Mike.
You're welcome.
Went through everything. Does anyone on the applicant or the design team have any questions for staff or the commissioners?
This is Mike Pilko. I'm president of RHJ Associates. We're the new architectural firm hired by Mr. Sanchez to assist him with the design and the approvals of his space. I would like to thank the board for their comments. I've taken detailed notes. Mr. Olson, I hear what you're saying, and we will make sure that we address your comments for final approval.
That's great. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Yeah, it's a very important part of the community that they're proposing. Its development's going to be a cornerstone because on the opposite corner were 4 properties rehabbed by Habitat for Humanity. So it's really starting to solidify the intersection and give it some meaning. So you know the drill. I'm looking forward to seeing what you have.
And
You bet.
we have a comment from our side. And we first want to appreciate the committee for being involved in this project. Because from our experience, every time, I mean, it might take a little longer, but every time you guys are involved, things get done the right way from the first try. Also, I would like to know what can we do at this point to get any preliminary approval for this project? Is there anything that we can provide at this point that we can try to move things forward?
Actually, the staff has recommended preliminary approval for this plan. And of course, Leon and I were at the site meeting, and we met with one of the new design professionals. And Dan was there also, talking about the depressed curbing and truck movements and a few other things that we had many, many questions about for a long time. And it seems like a lot of this has been, a lot of these questions are now taken care of. So I have no problem being as chairman recommending preliminary approval either. But we'll take the vote in a few minutes.
Thank you so much.
I do want to thank everyone from the team for coming, for making themselves available today on this special meeting once again. Does anyone have anything else on this plan?
Mr. Chairman, if I just may add one thing in here. This is a very important project for our community, as you have indicated. And I just want to recognize Ms. Lucy Cortez, who is with us, and she is with the Community First Fund. And we all know Community First Fund is embedded in the fabrics of our community here to make sure that opportunities like that are there. I believe Community First is the finance organization for for this project. So they are the one who are basically providing the funds for it. Am I correct in this, Ms. Cortez?
That is
There
correct.
you go.
That is correct, Jamal. We have partnered with another CDFI, and we've provided major funding for this particular project because it aligns extremely well with the mission of this organization, as well as what the city wants to do and revitalizing it. So we truly hope that we can get this moving along, and probably in 6 months, see a beautiful supermarket and restaurant and manufacturing of the discs, and be able to provide almost 100 jobs for the city.
Thank you. I have no further comments, sir.
If I may.
Yeah, this is Lee Olson again. I hear exactly what you're saying, and you know, when you look at that particular intersection, it's really in a food desert. There's really no place that anyone can go for groceries of any size or any restaurant, and I just think it's an excellent idea in that neighborhood with everything else that's starting to happen in the 6th Ward. I think it's an excellent idea.
If I may. This is Nate Rivera. I want to thank the hello. I want to thank the board for making time on a Saturday. I know everyone on this table is busy and has the profession to attend to, but let me tell you something. I appreciate your commitment, and this is going to be a cornerstone of what's going to happen in that area. I believe this is how we start fighting blight. It's going to be a change factor in the community, and I want to thank Leopoldo Sanchez and his team for taking a risk. To be honest with you, because nobody wanted to take a risk in that corner, and I pray and I hope that it's a very prosperous project. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you, Nick.
Go ahead, Bob. I just wanted to make,
Le pedí a minutos, yo le paso eso ahora.
on item number 5, which is the safety for the trucking. And I'm pointing that out because the engineering department was not able to make it to this meeting, and I'm reading through some emails, that I think that was the biggest concern from that office. And it seems like all the other items, are either in the works or have been accepted, but there was a major concern about the safety of all those truck maneuvers. So please take those, items in 5 very seriously, and if you have any questions, I'm sure the engineering department will pick up the phone and discuss them openly with you.
And Leo has one last word that he wants to say, which is he appreciates all of you guys to attend this meeting, and that he hoped for the best. His goal is to have 21 supermarkets. This will be the 4th one once it's open. He's very appreciative of the Reading City, because he's been working in Reading for 20 years. Over 20 years. And he has received nothing but good feedback and good experience from Reading. That's why he wants to invest in Reading and stays in Reading for the rest of his life.
Thank you very much. I believe we'll end the discussion here. And with that, I think we've reviewed everything very carefully. Do I hear a motion to accept the preliminary annexation and land development plan for Supernatural Produce at the intersection of 4th and Elm?
Lee Olson makes that move.
Second. Lee made the motion. Leon has seconded. Any question on the motion? Very good. All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Opposed? No, looks like we are unanimous. We now have our preliminary plan. And we look forward to the first submission for the final land development plan. Now that, Mr. Pilko and, Mr. Custer are on the team, once again, I believe I met Stephen at the site, I believe, and I was impressed.
Yes,
So,
Lee,
thank
we did speak on the site, and it was nice to meet you as well.
So, thank you very much.
Your project team can coordinate, your submission directly with me, and, we'll make sure we could, get everything in line for whichever meeting we're going to be focusing your efforts on next.
Sounds great. Thank you very much.
Okay,
Thank you.
you.
You all have a great weekend. Bye-bye now.
You too, thank you. Very good. And with
Mr.
that,
Chairman, if I may just ask one second of, just a housekeeping thing. Again, the fire alarm is keeping us company today. Whoever is controlling the meeting, the AV, could you please change the title zoning to planning commission? As this is going to be placed on a city website, I don't want it to be perceived as a zoning hearing. It is not, it is a planning commission meeting. So whoever has it, it's shown on the screen. Thank you. Thank you very much.
there we go.
And one more question is that, are we recording this?
Yes, it is.
Thank you.
It is.
Thank you very much,
recorded.
Mr. Chairman. Appreciate it.
So, thanks for pointing that out. Shannon has taken care of that for us. Okay, and with that, we will move on to the next project, which is Dream Ventures, 100 South 4th Street, and this is sketch plan review for, if you look on the window, it says that the building used to be Turner Textiles. And just as a note, this building is 2.5 blocks from my mother-in-law, so I pass this building just about every day. It's good to see that someone has taken interest in this building. I think the last time that anyone took interest in this building was about 15 years ago. So I think the building's been empty for quite a long time. And with that, I will turn it over to Jerome to introduce the project.
Okay. This plan was submitted as a sketch plan application. It also was submitted to the zoning hearing board for consideration as part of a zoning variance and special exception application, which I'll get into. As mentioned, this is a redevelopment project on a 3,100 square foot property at 100 South 4th Street. We have completed a sketch plan review dated February 11th, which has been issued. The existing use of the facility is, it's a 4-story building above ground. The 5th story could be considered if you include the basement. It was previously used for manufacturing and warehouse facility. The applicant intends to improve the site or redevelop the site to include or redevelop it as 20 residential apartment units. This may also be considered as part of the Alvernia College Town project, and the property is located within the R3 zoning district. The applicant has obtained a variety of zoning variances and a special exception in order to permit this use as a adaptive reuse. I provided the provisions that are relevant to adaptive reuse on this plan, on the plan review as well. The building itself is a non-conforming building in terms of lot area, building and impervious coverage, building height, and certain other dimensional requirements. Those will need to be addressed and identified on the plan, but the rules for nonconformity would apply to this project. The applicant also has, again, been granted a special exception application for the adaptive reuse. And what I did under comment 5 was I extracted the zoning hearing board's decision and included the comments that are relative to architecture or land use. And this is how the floors that I mentioned, including the basement, will be redeveloped. We'll get back to the applicant on that application as well. They have submitted initial architectural drawings. If those have changed, we would like those to be resubmitted. The architectural plans came with renderings, floor plans, and building elevations. So if those have changed since your initial sketch plan application, we would like those. Moving on to other comments that we've provided. This project will involve a great deal of issues with off-street parking. We provided the zoning hearing board's discussion and decision or findings of the fact that have been included within their decision, and they have granted the variance for the off-street parking. There was some notation that this will be located within close proximity to the 4th and Cherry Streets garage, and therefore parking, overflow parking, or any parking should be accounted for in that facility, and we agree with that. We had recommended that the 30 off-street parking spaces that would be required for the residential apartment units be reserved at this facility, since it's located in very close proximity to the apartment units, and the amount of competition for on-street parking is rather high in this area. Other comments that we've provided, just to provide direction to the applicant, is this is going to most likely require sanitary sewage planning through planning modules. We would recommend that the applicant start that process as soon as possible. That may take the longest of the requirements that we see in this letter. Other than that, we do not think that a stormwater management plan or report will be necessary for the project. This will be evaluated once the preliminary / final plan is submitted. Speaking of which, we have looked at the provisions that would apply for this project. It is a revised plan of record or change of use, and it would, although the zoning hearing board specified that a preliminary plan will be brought in, then a final plan, you can combine the preliminary and final plan applications, since this is a minor land development plan involving a revised plan of record or change of use. So that should summarize my comments. There are others in here, but the intent of this review letter was to provide the applicant with guidance and direction as the next application is submitted. There were also some site pictures. These were from Google Maps. We did not get the current pictures. And we also provided a recommendation in there that Public Works as well as Building and Trades should coordinate efforts with the zoning office just to verify the use of the garage and occupancy of the other residential apartments within the. That's it. Okay, I will, are there any comments from the commission members?
Yeah, this is Lee Olson. And looking through the documentation of both Jerome's report and also the contents of the zoning decision, am I to understand that the zoning hearing board is granting them the relief to have less than the required square foot per area per bedroom type? They are willing to reduce the amount of area? Am I reading this correctly?
Mr. Olson, this is Mark Cuck. Ladies and gentlemen of the Planning Commission, that is correct. We did ask for reductions in the square footage in the units, and it was granted by the zoning hearing board.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mark, very much.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. With me is Mr. Andrew Goldsman, too, who can help answer any questions for you. So we'll.
I want to jump in here quickly. This is something that is still up for discussion with the zoning office as well as building and trade. That's why I included that comment within the review letter that we should address that specific issue directly and do it now.
I have no further questions, sir.
I'm sorry, Mr. Skrunkowski, what question was that? What do you want us to address?
This goes into comments 5 and 6 of the review letter.
So if I may, for members of the board, just to give you a little bit of history of this particular matter, as you may know, I'm counsel to the developer, Mr. Goldsman is the developer. He's here with me today. We've been working on this project for a significant period of time, going back into October. I think Andrew can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we started with a one-stop on this property to try to get ahead of the ball. And as you may know, your staff has changed hands considerably in the last couple of months. We had some pretty significant progress made, we thought, with Naomi and with Dave Paris. And we were hoping to be on your planning commission meeting for the January meeting. We had discussions with Naomi in December about not attending your meeting at that point in time when this plan had been submitted back in early December. So as not to detract from the commission's time and efforts at the December meeting. We wanted to then thank you very much for allowing us to participate in this specially scheduled meeting. We were hoping to be on the January Planning Commission meeting, but due to the fact that we didn't make it onto that agenda, we're here with you this morning. So the simple fact of the matter is I think we've put a lot of effort into this building already, and you know, as Jerome has indicated, it's an adaptive reuse. And this Turner Textile building is a really neat building, and our client is going to work diligently to turn this into a fairly neat and you know, a reused building in the city for apartments. So that being said, we made some extensive analysis and had a pretty extensive list of requests for the zoning hearing board, and we were successful in getting all of those approved. So at this point, Jerome, I know we had requested variances from the actual, well, let me back up one step if I can. We had relief to utilize, I think, the you know, the ground floor, if you will, and then the 4 floors above it. And the relief was granted to allow more studios than the ordinance allows, and also to reduce the square footage of some of the apartments as well. So I'm not sure, what would you like us to address at this point about that particular issue?
I want to make sure that we're procedurally on the same page, that the zoning hearing board had the authority to grant that variance that reduces the square footage of the habitable, the size of the apartment unit in terms of habitation. We also want to look at the building code in conjunction with that as well to verify it.
So Jerome, your first question concerns me because you and I have been doing this a long time, and you know, the square footage in the ordinance, you know, we asked for a variance and we were granted the variance. So I don't know how you could question that, to tell you the truth.
I'm not questioning that aspect of it. The more pertinent issue is the building code.
Okay,
it's my understanding, sorry, because I you know, in reviewing your, this is Andrew speaking, in reviewing your letter, it's my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, that the building and trades department the plans will be subject to a separate review and comment by buildings and trade. And we've probably, you suggested a meeting, we've probably met with the zoning office 3 or 4 times. We haven't met with our contact at the planning office isn't there anymore, but we've met with the planning office in the same meetings. I've met as recently as 2 weeks ago with basically, I think Jamal could correct me, most of what comprises the building and trades department. I've met with a lot of those folks individually. I've met with the fire department. I've met with the fire marshals. I've spoken to some of the folks even in the police department. You know, we've been down this road, and you know, some of this stuff dates back to you know, October. You know, I prepared some slides if there's a way to give me control, just to kind of get you guys up to speed on the project, if it helps to kind of, you know, go over some of the background, which I thought was helpful during the zoning meeting last month. But obviously, if there's no way to do that, I'm happy to kind of just give you guys an overall kind of breakdown of the project before we get into these details, because some of them are important and make or break whether or not this project gets done. You know, we think it's very important to the city that it does.
Then you should have nothing to worry about.
Right. This is Bob Conklin. I just want to make sure that there's an understanding that we're talking about two different things. The zoning hearing board gave you waivers, but what we're talking about is the building code. There are minimums that are required for habitable space. And just because the zoning hearing board has waived their zoning requirements, still need to be held by the building requirement. So
and the building department will have their opportunity to review it, is my understanding.
We're not fighting you on the zoning hearing board. We just want to make sure that we are not overlooking the building codes.
Mr. Conklin, thank you for that clarification, because and Jerome, I wasn't exactly sure where you were going with that comment, but yes, look, we have attempted, guys, you have to understand, we have attempted on numerous occasions to try to get in touch with the building and trades. And we've, you know, we started with the one-stop shop, which, as you well know, is the city's concept for, you know, getting everybody on the same page. And, you know, we've dealt with things like stop work orders here that were, our position was they weren't, you know, warranted. We've worked our way through that. So we've had a pretty extensive set of contacts with building and trades here. So Mr.
And Jamal's gotten involved in
Yep.
you know, and we've been having, you know, we finally connected with Jamal on some of those issues, and ever since he's been involved, you know, dating back to kind of the zoning hearing board meeting, the experience has been quite different. So I mean, the experience of late should be really, you know, differentiated from the experience kind of before Jamal got in and helped make sure that folks were responding and we were actually getting communications back.
Yeah, we've appreciated that input, and you know, but it just, not to belabor the point, it's been a little bit more difficult than perhaps we anticipated to redevelop this property, you know, in accordance with what we thought the city would really kind of enjoy, you know, reusing some of this old architecture. So understanding building and trades.
If I may jump in here, to start with, I don't think the name Jamal should be the answer that we're moving things. The city of Reading is doing a great job. The staff is doing an awesome job. Like anybody else, we are busy and we are challenged with COVID and all these things. So I acknowledge that Mr. Goldsman have contacted or tried to reach out to building and trade several times, but the stop work order that Mr. Koch referred to was actually for roof repairs that were not permitted, or there was no building permit. So having said that, I would like to kind of like move forward for this, because this is a very good project, as you indicated, Mr. Chairman. 15 years of building that is not basically being utilized, and now we have a developer who is coming to our town with many other projects as well, that you will see him very often, and you will be very familiar with the name Andrew Goldsman. I would like to kind of like emphasize on two things in there, and I'm very fortunate at this point that I have two architects on the planning commission that actually, and an engineer too, that will help us with these things. And that is, we are looking at a smaller footprint for the apartments than the zoning ordinance calls for, and they have received a variance for that. And as Mr. Koch eloquently said, if we receive a variance, what are you talking about? It's done deal. That's it. But the question goes back to us as a team who's trying to improve the city. Are these, from your point of view as architects, do you see these apartments livable places, or are they matchboxes? Okay. And then my next question is to Andrew. to say the same thing is that you've been developing in many other places, such as the state of New York and Philadelphia. So a size of an apartment like this is something that you've probably built somewhere else. And we have, you can show us a proof that this is a livable place and enjoyable place for a single individual or a family. So I'd like to take it back to Lee and Bob and say, from your point of view as architects, is this can we work with the layout that's been presented to us?
Jamal, if I can jump in here, just very briefly, are you able?
We received floor plans.
You have, absolutely you have. Yeah, can you share the screen? Can you allow Andrew to share the screen?
Okay, great. Yeah, location. Yeah. Must be missed that.
I missed that too.
Those
attorneys get everything.
Mr. Chairman, could we, Jerome, can we share the screen? Can Andrew share the screen with you? Because he could walk you through some of this stuff.
Yeah, Shannon's working on it right now.
Oh, okay, great, thank you.
He has authority to jump in if he wants to share his screen.
Go ahead, Andrew.
Andrew, I think you're okay, clear to share screen now. If you can do it.
It's got UL.
Andrew, you're muted if you're trying to talk.
All right, let me jump me back to. Can everyone see now? All right, so
yep.
So I think you guys are correct in that the building has been vacant for quite some time. I think it's gone through 2 owners since it was sold by the Turner family, 15 years ago. And I should have pulled it, but when you go back to the first Google Street Views, you could go back in time on Google. They left the building. The first ones around the time they sold it, they left it in incredible shape. And something, unfortunately, all too often that we've found in Reading is we see a great building. It looks amazing on the outside, and there's no photos of the inside. And you go inside, and it's just it's totally really not salvageable for our purposes. This was quite different. We were looking at the American House, that we perceive that as kind of one of the issues there for at least what we do. And we in talking to those owners, they happen to own this, and long story short, it fit the model that for us, and although it's quite small of a project, it's something that very easily can be saved and should be saved. So it's as I think Mark covered, the building is over 5 stories, and as I'll show you in the elevations, most of the basement's actually above grade. So the fire department and the fire marshal considered it 5 and upgraded the class of sprinkler service as a result that we were required to install here. So that's kind of why there are those units in the basement. The existing site conditions, we had a survey done. We're not changing any of the existing conditions, and this is just the existing layout of the building. But just to kind of go to the jump ahead to the site plan, where the only changes that we're making to the actual footprint, the only land that we're touching that's being developed is accessibility, and safety upgrades that the code is going to require us to do. And one reason that, like, for example, the unit mix is has one more studio than is typically permitted without a variance, which we received, is because even though we the architects will know this, with a 20-unit building, you don't technically fall within having to comply with ADA Type A standards and having to provide such a unit. We've elected here to provide 2 of them, just because we feel that the potential demographic of our tenants, which may include students from down the road in Alvernia, there may be diversity among that pool where there might be a greater demand for accessibility. So we're making that investment even though we don't have to, and the architects will know. Normally the plan is, the client's instruction is to avoid these things. Our instruction was the opposite, because we want this to be marketable and usable by, the folks closest to it, and an asset to the community, and provide more, inclusionary housing, which we've seen is really absent from, a lot of these row homes and smaller buildings in Reading. So, we're not, other than basic beautification on the facade, and we're happy to do anything else on, on planters and restriping and painting. Those are all things that we intend to do and want to do, and we'll get permission to do it. We're, our goal here is to really restore something that can easily be saved. And ultimately it was one hand not talking to the other, and us not communicating to everyone in the city. But when we bought it, we had to do roof repairs. The roof was in terrible shape. We had communicated to a few folks that was going on the way. There was some lost in translation, and we were able to clear that up. But it was part of our effort to not want to wait, and ultimately we had approval from some folks in the city to go ahead with those repairs, not want to wait to save an asset like this. So we've already completely redone that roof. We already made it, we already went through the building, and we're waiting on we just got issued a dumpster permit to take out the rest of the trash that was left behind by the sellers. But we want to restore this and have it be really an asset to the downtown area, and the vision that kind of is consistent with College Town. The existing layout, as you can see, I mean, it's basically 5 floors of totally open space. It's in, you could kind of see, in the upper area, the kind of the roof damage that I was talking about, and how the water came down. But that's repaired now, and the building is dry, and we're able to we were able to save everything before there was any major issue, because that issue had just started, I think, a couple of seasons before we bought it. The unit mix is 20 units. Historically, in an envelope of 13,000 square feet, we had plans for that. I'll put it this way: we had plans for this building that had as many as 26 units that we thought were livable, rentable, and was something that the market would appreciate, because as kind of the floor plans will show, you're talking about a large studio space, which will meet the building code requirements for minimum unit size. That for this type A unit, there is no other product like this on the market in Reading, where you have a wheelchair accessible studio, a large kind of bedroom area, a very accessible kitchen area, a generously sized bathroom, and access that permits someone who needs a unit like that to actually live in it. And then in terms of the other unit sizes, we think they're larger than what may even be needed for many folks, because when you're talking about students, or you're talking about the other members of the Alvernia community that might want to live in an apartment, and you look at what's our most popular kind of unit mix, which is this 1 bedroom with a study. This is really made for 1 or 2 people to live in the study, for the student, teacher, individual who wants to have a space to learn. And it's really our bet that folks are going to want to pay for that extra space, because in reality, a lot of the units could have been a little bit smaller. And for someone who doesn't want the study space, I think that this is a very typical sized 1 bedroom for an urban environment. The bedroom is enough for a bed and a small desk, and you have a place for a sofa, television, coffee table, even a 2-person dining table. It's an efficient space that allows folks to actually get a good product at a fair price, because our goal here is to price this at the market and meet the market where it is, not to overprice them. And the way we're able to do that is by economically using the square footage. We were having a conversation with actually some of the folks at the DoubleTree recently, and with Craig Poole, who I'm sure you guys know, and you know, Craig was telling, you know, myself and one of my colleagues about the difficulty one of his employees was having, you know, with like a $1,200 or $1,400 a month budget to find something for, you know, I think it was that employee and their young child. And you know, it was and he described the units that the person was looking at and their state and disrepair and really the fact that they're not livable. And you know, that rent that person was targeting, even though this might ultimately be more appealable because of the location and, you know, the lack of parking to an Alvernia student, you know, this unit here, you know, is going to fall within the, you know, depending on the floor and ultimately the finishes and how much more expensive this process is to get approvals, you know, between, you know, $1,100 and $1,300 a month. That's where we plan to price these. And that's affordable to a lot of folks and is in the middle of the city. And the way we're able to accomplish that is by having, you know, a 400 or 500 square foot, you know, one bedroom with a study rather than an 800 square foot one bedroom. So instead of wasting space on hallways and what have you, we've really focused on minimizing loss, even though we're fitting it into an existing envelope. And I think that you know, in terms of just touching on the basement for a second, I don't know if I could zoom in here, but I think as you guys can and the architects could see, the building itself goes you know, about 3 feet 8 inches under grade, and then there's obviously a little bit of a slope. So you're having, you know, more than for the entirety of the basement, more than 50% is above grade of the basement floor. And you know, far more than 50% by the time you get to the far side of the building, you know, in this direction. So the basement apartments will actually feel more like garden level apartments with, you know, normal height windows, and the only difference will be kind of in terms of fire safety, you know, when there'll be kind of the window well exits, which again are those code and safety upgrades that you know, we're required to make. You know, the first floor units tracks pretty closely to our typical floor plan. But you know, it has an extra 1 bedroom unit just because of the layout. Again, I think it's generously sized. You know, I think a unit, you know, you take this corner unit, which we actually did like a 3D rendering of, you know, it's a very livable space. You could easily have a sofa and a dining table here, you know, you know, or put your sofa in your study area in the back over here, and then you have a bedroom area that's generously sized, and you know, efficient strip kitchen and an L kitchen here, and you know, an adequately sized bedroom and more than enough closet space. You know, that's really the goal, is to provide places that people are comfortable. Is a family of 6 going to be comfortable in this unit? No. Are we renting to families of 6? Absolutely not. So that's really the goal here. And what's nice, especially in terms of common space, is that, you know, we're going to have a mail and a package room, and we've integrated different, you know, virtual access systems at our different properties, depending on, you know, exactly what the needs are. But you know, we'll install some sort of remote access system so tenants can let UPS, FedEx, you know, a dog walker, if they have one, into the building remotely from their phone, or you know, it could be a landline or a smartphone app, and then integrate that with the package in the mailroom. So, you know, you don't have a street front flooded with Amazon boxes, and you don't have a hallway flooded with Amazon boxes. It's just that's become kind of the norm in our design. And then the nice thing is that upstairs, you know, other than the shared laundry room, which is, you know, aimed to be in the middle of the building, we have these extras, kind of these rooms on the 3rd and 4th floor are empty, and talking to, you know, Alvernia and if they ultimately decide to put this project, once it's done, inside their housing pool and offer it to their students, you know, it offers interesting flexible space where it can be community spaces or amenities where they're obviously small rooms pre-existing, but that's a nice study space. It's a nice prayer space. You know, those are the kind of common spaces that, you know, Alvernia thinks will be important to their students. You know, we're even though it's a smaller building, we're going to put in a small garbage chute, so you know, you don't have trash or other things building up in hallways and drag down hallways and stairs. And, you know, the layouts ultimately, I think are, you know, we're proud of them. We worked really hard on them. And, you know, even our studio, which, you know, the building code, which I think it's in the 2015, if you guys have moved to that too, you know, it's 225 square feet is the minimum size of, you know, a one room studio like this. And we're 50 fair square over that. And we have gone within a few feet of the minimum in Philly in a few places and have no problem renting those. And those are some of our best performing units on a per square foot basis because, you know, a student doesn't really need a lot of space, especially if they're studying hard. So, you know, we've really tried to reflect a lot of our experience in Philadelphia and New York in this design. And I think that, you know, the architects will appreciate the lengths that we went to not to waste any space, given kind of that we only had windows on two sides of this building, and kind of our detail and making sure the spaces are also livable, which we strongly believe that they are. In terms of there's some pictures of the inside of the building, but in terms of the actual I'll go off the in terms of like the actual like functioning and parking, you know, we made an effort with the parking authority to lease spots. You know, unfortunately they're and we've had some great conversations with them since then. You know, our position has become is, you know, we kick those tires, and I know there was some turnover and what have you, but you know, we've kicked those tires for a few months, and you know, at this point, you know, the same thing, I'll say the same thing that we said to the zoning board. You know, this only works now if the parking requirement is zero. We believe legally the parking requirement should be zero. You know, not only because you have the authority to grant it and there's good cause here, but, you know, under the, you know, applicable portions of the code, which we, you know, discussed with the zoning hearing board, I think it's section 600 through 607, the language is about, you know, pre-existing non-conforming uses and parking requirements, you know, clearly explain that, you know, if the conforming use is equal to or less than intensive than the prior non-conforming use of off-street parking requirements will not change. And here, you know, and this is, you know, an office warehouse space, you know, and talking to the parking authority, I previously was before the commission, you know, talking about 601 Penn, which we're hopefully going to come back to with, you know, next month or the following, you know, and talking to the parking authority about 601 Penn, you know, they explained on average, they would have one parking spot per, you know, what I calculated to be, you know, every 300 or 400 square feet of space. Here you have a 13,000 square feet building. You take 13,000 divided by 300. That's a lot of parking spaces. And, you know, quite frankly, there is a demand for boutique-ish type office space that's exposed, you know, exposed brick and beautiful the way it is. And this building is, and would have honestly cost very little money to get that building in that space. And legally, we don't feel like we'd be required to provide any parking because naturally the folks would go across the street. So consistent with that section of code, because the parking use of moving this building to conforming instead of non-conforming use would be less intensive than if we actually just to keep it as an office space. And, you know, or office and light manufacturing, if it was some sort of startup making some sort of widget, there would be, you know, there would not be an additional parking requirement assessed on us, and we wouldn't have to make the safety and capital upgrades that we're making right now, which we want to make. We want to redevelop this. We want to see it as a positive for Alvernia, which is in tremendous need of housing, as other projects, you know, haven't delivered what, you know, on the timelines and that had previously been thought. So we're ready to execute. That's what we do. And really, we're at the point where we're waiting on this and any comments to finalize our submissions to building and trades, and then we're going to start and then we're going to finish. I mean, we're the kind of group that if, you know, our bank is late, you know, on a project like this, we'll fund this in cash. We're not looking to delay this, and we want to finish. And quite frankly, in our original schedule, I showed us being halfway through construction, and I think I'd be there if I had the approvals. And you know, in terms of parking, the other offer that I made and the zoning, you know, folks took us up on it in the zoning decision is, you know, willing to forfeit, you know, our on-street parking. So, you know, the parking on Franklin on 4th Street is not metered, it's permitted. And, you know, we offered and are willing to waive those rights to those that permitted parking, you know, in exchange for the, you know, zero parking requirement. Our thought is like, you know, a lot of cities and places where a building is redeveloped. In Philadelphia, for example, there is no parking requirement when it comes to redevelopments. And that's what's helped them, you know, with you know, basically reinvent West Philadelphia. You know, we developed West Philadelphia High School, which wouldn't have been possible with a parking requirement given the unit count there. You know, and what they've seen in North Philly and Fishtown and all of those different neighborhoods, it's really been a catalyst for growth. And by forfeiting that parking requirement, what happens is in any society like ours is the market takes over, and the only option for folks is to rent parking. That can lead the parking authority to charge more. It could lead to, you know, private, you know, proprietors charging more, and it leads to more business. It leads to, you know, more growth. And ultimately, you can't have a car if you have nowhere to park. And if all of the parking on the street is permitted, and we're waiving our rights to permits, then there is no parking burden that the building can possibly put on the city. The only burden would be someone not following those rules, which in case the cars will be you know, ticketed, impounded, and towed, and the city will generate revenue. You know, so that's our position. And, you know, we might, you know, very well just pivot back to office if you know, if we're encumbered with some sort of parking requirement, which we don't know if that will exist if, you know, whoever buys the American house has a huge parking demand. Or, you know, even Santander, you know, one thing that we've been talking about is if, and luckily their parking, you know, demands are not that high on the Cherry Street garage, but, you know, even their parking requirements, hopefully they're convinced to bring back the presence of all the employees that were at 601 Penn to their other building, or at least some of it, and they'll have a parking need. And that's where the parking should really go if we're willing to make this waiver, and our folks who we believe will be students, or, you know, kind of like the folks before us, you know, alluded to with their employees, will, you know, will have a short commute, walkable or bus commute to work. So, you know, and willing to give that up, we think that the zero parking requirement is, you know, applicable here, and, you know, and that's really, you know, a deal point for us at this juncture. So, you know, we're happy to answer any questions. We put a lot of thought and a lot of time into this, and we need to move it forward one way or the other at this point. We've you know, we bought another property probably 4 months after this one out in, you know, a little further out in Berks County. It's going to be 100 units. We've already invested a significant amount of money there. We're in the process of getting final plans and permits approved, and, you know, that process was, you know, took about a fourth of what we've invested so far here. So we're eager and ready to work with a partner, which, you know, I agree with Jamal. The staff seems ready. They seem excited. They want to work on this. You know, I think that, you know, this is one of the final steps to get everything, all the stars aligned to get us moving forward.
Chairman.
Very good. Thank you for your presentation, Mr. Goldsman.
Chairman.
Nate, I'll take your comments after we're finished.
Okay, no problem. Sorry.
Let me see. Beginning to go around the table. Thank you for the presentation, Mr. Goldsman. That actually answered a lot of my questions that I had. One question I do have, I do see that where that loading dock used to be, you're going to have a chairlift there, or a ADA system?
So we have an existing staircase to the basement. And so if we're still speccing out and seeing what solutions are available. So that might need to be widened. I think we might be short by like 6 inches. But that the ADA's chairlift is going to be through that existing staircase to the basement. What you're seeing is the second set of you know, egress, you know, fire stairs, where there's an existing old elevator right now. So we're going to utilize the elevator shaft as kind of the kind of hub of that new, you know, egress staircase that's required per building code. And that's where the staircase is going to go. It avoids any structural or major kind of construction adding that staircase. And then, you know, ultimately, you know, that we thought it looked nice. I think in our discussions with building and trades, though, that will need to be removed. And we would have that basically one additional staircase for egress there. The elevator unfortunately was never kept up to date. And, under Pennsylvania law, when the elevator is very old, has wooden rails, when an elevator with wooden rails hasn't been inspected or licensed in more than 5 years, it's a onerous, if not impossible process to relicense it. And, not to mention the condition of the elevator is too far gone to really say if it's an old kind of rope operated where you pull a rope to go up and down and there's a motor, but it's the only new staircase is for the egress. But all of the we're going to redo and rebuild them so they're beautiful again, not what they look like now.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Goldston. Okay, the only thing that I see, since that was a loading dock, you might have to go to PennDOT and update your HOP and say that there is going to be no driveway, no loading dock, no nothing there anymore.
I imagine it's easier to give back a curb cut than ask for one, so we will do that for sure.
Yeah. So if you could just check into that if that's needed, because I remember 20-some years ago that they used to back trucks into there and basically close off the street, which is interesting since that's a state highway.
Wow.
That's my only comment. Any comments, Bob?
No, I think I'm good.
Okay. Any comments, Will?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, we always appreciate reviewing a sketch plan. Like you, Mr. Chairman, I'm familiar with the former Turner Textile building, and it appears to be a sturdy structure that I've noticed has been vacant for a while, and I think it's a great candidate for, first of all, to be salvaged and of course to be readapted. So I appreciate the proposal. The presentation answered a number of my questions as well. I'm attending this meeting over the phone, so I cannot see. So the presentation was helpful. But I just have a couple questions. One, not that there has to be, I understand there's some common areas. Is there going to be any storage available for the residents?
Understanding that every closet requires a sprinkler head and costs money, we are fairly large, especially in the non-studio apartments, where there might be more than one person. Those rooms, and maybe we could arrange, as we get closer to the final, maybe we arrange a visit to the building where those little rooms are actually quite pretty and cute, kind of, because they're all brick. That's the one window line that we have, not on Franklin and 4th Street. There's just a little teeny tiny kind of like air window. So we'd love to kind of like leave that kind of history and aesthetic intact. And then kind of there's some room in the basement, but if there's a need, we have a little bit of square footage in the former mechanical room in the basement that's marked mechanicals, but because that really won't be in use. But right now we anticipate, if it's mostly students, a lot of Alvernia students at the College Town campus are coming from abroad. I mean, they're traveling with what they could bring on an airplane. So hopefully they don't have that many things. If they do, we could always come back and revisit turning that. That could probably end up being 4 to 8 storage lockers in that area in the basement. Later if there's demand.
Okay, thank you. And yes, and as the historian in the commission, I always appreciate salvaging the details and the visibility. Thank you. I saw in the review there was a mention of I can't remember exactly, some plan for the presence of management 24/7. Is there going to be a property manager, or at least a staff person occupying one of the one of these units or an additional unit? What's the plan for that?
So if we could find, normally the issue is finding someone. So if we could find someone who could, who will take that role for, abated or no rent in one of the units, we always, 20 units, it's small, but it's always worth the investment long term to have that person on site. So we find that person and they're reliable. Yes, otherwise it'll be, I think that what we said was 24/7, management response. So, they'll be virtually, we'll have kind of that system that I mentioned, which will be monitored. And then we have 601 Penn, which there would be full-time staff live in. And, management itself will be available 24/7. Obviously, I'm not going to promise you that I'm going to find and hire that person, because historically we never always find that person immediately, but that's the goal, is to find that person. And then up the road, which we have not previewed to you guys yet, is we recently purchased Central Catholic High School, which is also going to be redeveloped to residential, and there will absolutely be a live-in person there. And that's literally right up 4th. You just go straight up 4th through the park right there. It's a very quick ride, and we would 100% we would have and would need to find someone there who would be paid a salary and have an apartment, because that'll be large enough to have that. So between 601 Penn or the old Luden Mansion, there would be a staff member that's accessible 24/7, that's has eyes on the property all the time, plus the actual management company that we end up retaining.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that a lot, because that's a major concern in the city. So as long as there's access, availability close by, that's critically important. But thank you very much, and I'm definitely very favorable to the project. Look forward to seeing it go through the process. Thank you.
Thank you.
Very good. Okay. I think we're pretty good, right, Leon? Do you have anything?
No, I don't have
Yeah. Okay. I think a lot of our concerns have been we've aired them out, and we are looking forward to a formal submission. Will you be able to get that in at the end of February?
Well, Mr. Chairman, go ahead, Andrew.
Yeah, I think that we need to verify the sewer and water planning. I think that's the one open item we have, and then kind of talk to the county quickly. And then once we verify that, we'd essentially convert this to a final. And if there's no more, if we don't have any requirements on those ends, there wouldn't really be anything new to add. But we're in the process of verifying that, and with Jamal's team and with the county, and that's really the last step.
Okay, great.
Well, if I could, Mr. Chairman, I think there was some preliminary conversation about the commission's application that we submitted. And I know Jerome has reviewed this as a sketch plan, but in our analysis of the situation, the application indicated that we wanted to submit a final submission for minor land development. So there might be some semantics involved here, but what we would respectfully like to request is, with the significant amount of progress that we have made, and the fact that we think that with the submissions that we've made to the city at this point in time, we're all but at a final plan, and we'd respectfully like to request a preliminary approval or a conditional approval of some kind, if we can get that today. Understanding we'd be resubmitting and coming back.
What I had recommended was that they bring in a preliminary/final plan for consideration. I think that would still be the same timeline.
For approval for the February meeting.
Yeah,
Mr.
I
Chairman,
already gave you the specific information that we're looking for a preliminary/final plan to be applied to the plan. The current sketch plan does not have that, so let's get that information on the preliminary/final plan, and then also schedule a meeting with Building and Trades and the zoning department.
okay.
So go ahead, Jamal.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Mark. Mr. Chairman, if I may just ask, what are we missing at this point from granting a conditional preliminary plan approval?
There's no formal submission.
No planning commission, the Berks County Planning Commission review.
Oh, and there's no Berks County Planning Commission review either. We cannot vote if we don't receive Berks County Planning Commission, because, it's in the MPC that, the Berks County Planning Commission has to submit their comments first. Submit those to us for us to review before we can vote.
But I think you could, go ahead, Jamal, I'm sorry.
No, I'm sorry, Mark, go ahead. And we have two attorneys on board here. So I'm going to ask, could this be a final?
A condition.
Conditional or must it be part of the preliminary? And I'm just asking, that's a question.
So my understanding, Jerome, is that you viewed the check in the sketch plan box. This was treated as a sketch plan submission by the city, and so those formalities of county review and those things didn't occur.
Yeah, and then it also meets the definition of minor land development plan, which enables you to submit a combined preliminary/final plan.
But everything on your end was reviewed and treated from sketch, not formal.
Correct.
Right. Mark, I'm hearing you say that wasn't the intention, or?
So Beth, if you take a look at the application below the sketch, which was inadvertently checked, you'll see in the other box, okay? So you can, that's where we're saying it really wasn't a sketch plan. I realize the box was checked, but I think the verbiage controls over the sketch, you know, and quite honestly, and I think what Jamal is getting at, and this is a question for Jerome, is I think we submitted all but final plans, you know, especially considering this is an adaptive reuse. That's an existing building. It's not a new construction type situation.
Yes.
We're just trying to make sure we can.
The point here is that you did not submit to the county yet. We cannot do anything until the county does their work.
Mr. Chairman,
Mark, I respect your position that you wrote in the other box, but I mean, the fact that the sketch plan was checked, that is how the city treated it on review.
Okay.
You know, I mean, I think the commission's telling you that there's willingness to move this project forward as soon as we have it reviewed in a formal setting. But I'm hesitant to have them take any formal action on that here just because of the way it was handled as submitted and as reviewed internally.
If we're able to get that county review to you guys in short order, and the only things missing is water and sewer, and we resubmit with you know, indicating the final plan approval, could kind of the water and sewer stuff kind of be conditional? Is that possible?
Yes, that is possible.
So we'll work on that and we'll turn it around quickly.
That is very possible, because what we would do would be give you conditional approval until the modules are finished and that type of stuff, because this is not a full blown, what you call it? It's yeah.
I would expect it's an exemption, honestly. I don't think we're going to need.
Mark, I pretty much gave you everything that you needed to review as part of the final plan. I threw in a lot more for a sketch plan review because of our discussions that we had had. So I made sure that I was thorough with this sketch plan review and incorporated a lot of the preliminary/final plan review comments. But still, we need to do it correctly from a procedural standpoint.
Yeah, and I mean, just to that point, Mark, you know, the agenda for this meeting called it a sketch plan. I think it really is proper that we have another submission and formal review before we get to an approval. But
So I want to thank everybody for their time and their efforts here today. And this is no reflection on Jerome whatsoever. We appreciate his analysis and the timing. So, you know, just understanding that we got jammed up a little bit with the city staff that left. That's no aspersion, casting no aspersions on anybody here or anybody that's involved. It's just the way things go. Personnel turnover, and you get caught in those gaps sometimes. So we appreciate everybody's effort. We appreciate Jerome going above and beyond with the analysis. And Andrew, you know, what I'm hearing is at this point, if we can get that turned around, we'll be on the agenda for the February meeting, and we should be in fairly decent shape. So does that sound okay to you?
Yeah.
Can we
Mr.
actually?
Well,
Can I? Go ahead, Lee. Go ahead. No, I'm.
Thank you, Jamal. Andrew, this is Lee Olson. I want to thank you very much for the lengthy explanation of how you have viewed this building. It showed me that you just aren't another typical developer and looking at a bottom line. You've taken an active role in the design process, and I certainly respect that. What I want to do is I want to share with you a conversation I had with John Loyak about a year ago. John, of course, is the president of Alvernia University. And I was with a client who was interested in doing a similar project with another type of building in the city. And John made it very clear at that time that any buildings that will house any domestic Alvernia University students must be under the control of Alvernia University's facilities and physical plant. They prefer that all of the domestic students, both in undergraduate and graduate programming, are being monitored and sort of shepherded, if you will. My words, not his. But when it comes to international students or maybe even grad students in the future, that's a different animal. So I would think, and this goes back to the conversation you were having with Will, if there are undergraduate students that would be living in the building, Alvernia has a set of guidelines and overarching rules and regulations for monitoring those students. I think if you cut a deal with John, and if he sanctions that, hey, yes, you get this through, we'll cut a deal, we'll do a 10-year plan, whatever. And then the requirements for student housing of Alvernia University students at the undergraduate level in your building will then provide that 24/7 house mother, building superintendent kind of person. Just as an aside, because that will affect your programming, and I know at the end of the day you've got a grid that shows the actual pro forma of number of units and the value of rental. I understand that, but I just want to make sure that you, if you are serious, and you obviously are, in attracting Alvernia University students, that you have that conversation so that John is fully aware and he can support you in what he feels he needs as facility support in your building. I think that'll go a longer way for you to get an actual room count, bed count, and student occupancy as well. The building is in a very critical neighborhood. It's in South Reading. It is in dire need of neighborhood revitalization, and I think this is a great step to do that because it's sort of halfway between the pure residential South End and also getting into the area of 4th and Penn where the building is located. So I think as you proceed, I would certainly suggest that you reach out to John and show him this building, and maybe you already have. And if so, I think it would be in your best interest to get him on your side, have a letter of support, have something that says that if Andrew gets this approved, we definitely will commit to a deal of X number of units for Y number of years. And then that way you've got standing with the use of the Alvernia College Town mantra, and I think that makes it a lot easier for you.
So yeah, no, I think you hit the nail on the head, and our conversations with John have gone basically exactly the same. Is for international students it would be self-managed, and then if it was mixed and blended with their undergraduate community, then it would be we would basically hand it over in some sort of management kind of concept to their student housing. They would have a live-in person. And then the other wrinkle is that they can't, that as a policy, they don't like to lease or sign leases. So it would really be in like a management kind of agreement context. We've left it open. I think, my principals and John have kind of hit it off, and, we definitely don't need any commitment from him to feel comfortable moving forward. we believe, you know, he has built it, and we've basically come. I mean, it's we believe in his vision. It's why we bought that building before we got to know him, but we bought that before we even knew him. Just reading about it, you know, it's clear that you know what he has done and what is going to do is going to make a meaningful impact in that area. And you know, 100%, we're gonna. You guys, anyone could feel free to reach out and ask him about this project. He's familiar with it. We've had multiple conversations with, you know, his team and him about it. So he's walked the building, you know, 1 or 2 times. You know, it's there. They are, you know, we want to build it, and then we will figure out how it best serves everyone. And if we figure it out before, then great. But we're not putting pressure on them to sign a lease or manage an agreement, and we're looking. We just want to build it. I mean, the message they've sent or that they conveyed is they've had to place international folks as far away as Kutztown, and there's a tremendous need to bring them closer to home.
All right, thank you, Andrew.
Very good.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if I may just take the floor for 1 minute in there. Looking at the logistics of things, today is the 12th. Our next planning commission meeting is on the 22nd. And one of the requirements to move this project forward is applying and receiving a review letter from the county. That, I got a sneaky suspicion, might not happen in 10 days. Okay, so the question to our staff and our attorneys both, proving showing a proof of submitting to the county, would that suffice? And that's a question, because I see that there is an inclination of that. If once we get the letter, we'll approve. But I'd like to learn and shake this a little bit to see how is that gonna materialize. Thank you.
What's it? That's for Beth. Question was it legal? Oh, for Beth. Yeah.
I mean, my opinion would be that you should have that county review. Because that's, you know, the meeting at which you're going to give a conditional approval is going to be the last time you'll see it. It doesn't come back before this commission. So, I mean, if you want to make an approval conditioned upon the county letter being satisfactory to staff, I think you could do that. You know, it obviously would need to be reviewed before the conditions are deemed satisfied, which is an administrative process outside this body. I mean, that is an option, but that's a judgment call for the commission to decide whether they're comfortable with that or they want to see the letter, county's comments.
So if I may just add
Yeah,
to
Ms.
that,
Cole, go ahead, Mark.
I agree with Beth's analysis. I've gotten conditional approvals before in various municipalities where we did not yet have the county's review letter. The kind of the odd situation here is that this is an adaptive reuse, right? So I can't imagine that the county's review letter is going to have any substantive comment to it whatsoever with respect to this property. So I can't foresee a situation where the county's review letter would suggest something that would impact or change what Jerome has already seen.
Mark, I do agree with you. I think that's a very fair point. You know, the parking is something the county could care about, but it's already been addressed through the zoning decision.
Right.
So beyond that, I think your point is fair.
Mark and Andrew, I think that if you can, you know, get your plan up to speed, submit it to the county, both Jamal and myself could talk to the county officials, make sure that they get the review back to us within a timely manner. I think that they can, you know, work with us on that aspect. And then that way we'll have everything by the 22nd, hopefully. We'll be able to issue the preliminary/final plan review, and then we could have the discussion again on where we stand with approval of that plan. But let's have your guys fix the plan as best as possible, get it to the county planning commission, and then we'll work from there.
Yeah, and I want to, Mr. Chairman, if I may, I know that you have the upper word and the last word, but if I may say one thing, And I think I agree with Jerome's presentation statement in there, in which he said that the plan is going to come to you on the 22nd for preliminary approval, conditional preliminary approval, and you will see the plan one more time. In another sense, we are not granting them a final plan approval at this point until we resolve the sewer module. The sewer module must be accepted by the city engineer and approved by DEP. So you will have two approvals. The very first one is a conditional approval for a preliminary plan approval, and then hopefully they will come later on with a final plan approval, and that may be in April. But what it does, it gives the applicant and the developer in this case the chance to actually start some of the construction activities that they need to once they secure building permits, permits to move on, so that they can meet the deadline that Alvernia has imposed on them. And I think, if I remember correctly, that's sometimes in end of August. If my
they asked for to see if we can get units done for the fall semester, which is as more time goes on, it becomes a taller and taller task. But I think that at least you know, with partial TCOs and you know, getting at least the rough. I mean, we have all the major trades lined up to get the rough and you know, finished. And if we can get the rough finished, and it's just a matter of drywall and finishing, you know, by, you know, early summer, we could, you know, we'll be in a good place, because it's not that large of a building. And the way that I think, again, if you look at the plans, everything's designed to stack kind of neatly and efficiently.
Yeah, just please get your plan up to speed as best as possible, and submit it to the city of Reading. We'll make sure we check our boxes and submit the plan to the County Planning Commission for their review. But let's take care of that on Monday, and hopefully we get that out the door on Monday, and then start the review process as well. Yeah.
And just so you know, if you meet those requirements, especially the submission to the county, as chairman, I would be willing to put this forward for a preliminary conditional approval, and we would just put the county comments as one of those things that need to be followed up on for the final approval. The only thing that I can think of is that every once in a while the county comes up that this building will fall in some sort of area that we don't even know about. I've seen this over time, and they're like, well, because it falls in this area, you need to do this with the feds or something. That's the only thing I can think of that would come up. Oh, and also there's the very, very, very slight possibility this is in a flood zone.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
But you're not making an addition. It's
no exterior. Yeah, no. So I got you.
Yeah. So I don't know if that has would you know, change anything. Yeah, the basement might, and that becomes a zoning issue, because the flood, the
what are your flood elevations?
The person who signs off on the flood paperwork is the zoning officer. Okay, so you're going to have to talk to Shannon about that.
So, Mr. Chairman, you honestly think this is in the 100-year flood zone?
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure, because this building flooded in Agnes.
We'll check that, Mark. We'll double check that.
Interesting.
So, yeah.
Mark's gonna check too.
Yeah, I would just check, just so you keep on track here.
Okay. Look, we appreciate everybody's time and effort and the feedback. It's been very, very beneficial. So again, everybody's time has been very, very much appreciated on our end. So thank you.
Okay, thank you,
Yeah,
Mark.
yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman, this is Will. Yeah, and also I believe the question you raised on the PennDOT approval of the highway occupancy permit change would also be something that we could approve conditionally because we had changed our ordinance, and also because in this case, as was mentioned, it's giving up one. So I don't, just to tie up that loose end, I don't see that as a problem either. And I know my church at Third and Franklin flooded in Agnes. So I think it's a good question to check it out. So thank you.
Thanks, Will.
Thank you, Mark.
Mr. Rivera.
Hey, I think my name's Nate Rivera. I'm just a citizen of the city of Reading. I do appreciate when investors come in and try to revive something that's been dead for a long time. So I appreciate the efforts. I just have one concern, and I hope it gets approved as soon as possible. One concern: we're setting a precedent for the zoning ordinance of giving a what you call a smaller square footage. So we just have to be careful. I think we have to revisit and get more creative when it comes to laws, because I like this concept that they're bringing, but it creates a precedent. And I think the city and the administration, Jamal, needs to sit down and look at the ordinances and maybe scale down on it, so we can have developers that can come and do this kind of projects without having to go through the struggles. That's my opinion. And great job to the planning commission for making time out of their busy Saturday morning. And you can see the commitment and how committed they are to making the city of Reading a better place. Thank you guys all.
Thank you. You're welcome, Nate. I will just comment on Mr. Rivera's about the laws and things. Actually, about 12 months ago, a little bit more than a year ago, we changed the zoning ordinance to allow for efficiency apartments. Before that point, efficiency apartments were not allowed in the city of Reading. So we have actually, through that change, made this proposal possible, and also the proposal at 6th and Penn possible because of the changes we made. Because for many years, city council did not want to hear about having efficiency apartments in the city. And we went ahead, looked at that and made that change so that we could at least allow a 25% within a building. So
and the 500 square foot. Yeah, sorry, and the 500 square foot minimum.
Yeah, studio. Yeah, so we
Thank
did.
you guys.
We did make,
Thank you guys so much.
Yep. So just letting you know, Nate. So with that, I believe there is no action to be done because this was a sketch plan, but the developer now knows how to move forward to get this onto our next agenda. And I think if there are nothing else, well, actually, we really can't talk about anything else.
Okay.
Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
The Olson moves to adjourn.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, and Bob seconds. And we are out of order.
Thank you
Thank
very
you all.
much. Enjoy
Appreciate
the
your
rest of your
time.
weekend. Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
Just as formality, for all those in favor of adjourning?
Aye.
I always forget how that works. All right, very good, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Will.